Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. This is not your regular timed and scheduled Geektastic Cypher, but this is a new thing. I'm your boy Skinny, Action Figgy Skinny, the real Action Figgy Skinny, the many names that I have, Skin Deep, so on and so forth, joined by my man, Protoman. Um,
What up?
and this is Talking Fresh Figures. Will we be talking about things that are coming out, controversy surrounding toy companies, uh, all sorts of the good stuff, news, movie news, maybe not so much movie news, but more just toy news. So yeah, and with HasCon coming up, starting tomorrow into the first has PulseCon, sorry, 2022.
Hasbro Pulse Con.
Yeah, I just call it HasCon because I feel like they
Yeah,
had a HasCon
it
before.
was a HasCon. It was. I went to it. It was an absolute disaster.
Right, wasn't
So,
good.
but yeah.
Wasn't good, huh? Okay, so this
Well,
is
you know what? Like, I mean, I don't know what Hasbro's plan was, but Hasbro is a very Rhode Island company. Like, if you
right.
go to Rhode Island, you feel like that whole city relies on that one company.
They're
And
from
when they did
Pawtucket. Yeah, yeah.
HasCon, it wasn't a convention more than it was a trade show celebrating bring mom, bring the kids, bring grandma. You
Oh,
know, it was like there was like baby strollers, like whole families, and it was more of a trade show. It was more of I don't want to say a celebration of Hasbro brands, but it was like every booth was just like, hey, you like Star Wars? Have a green lightsaber keychain. Hey, you like Beyblade? Have this Beyblade. Like, and when it was all said and done, I felt like they just lost money because they never did it again. And
yeah, that's true.
that's always the tell, you know. Major companies, when they make money, they milk it to the ground. But when they all of a sudden never do it again,
Yeah,
that tells you something big
little,
time.
little, little, little strange and off-putting, but yeah, yeah, man. Well, PulseCon 2022 is tomorrow. I'm last year I kind of was a part of it in some kind of way. I was like part of their
Oh,
like
you made
fan.
like one of those like cameos there on the.
Yeah, I was a part of their like fan like page thing that they had like a little
Okay.
fan wall. Well, they had a bunch of us just jump into this random room, and essentially it's like as if you were at home reacting to the reveals, except for you're
Mm,
on their special stream and you're in like one of their boxed kind of things. And it was cool because there was a
that's
bunch of
cool.
us in the chat. I stupidly decided to hit refresh on the page, which don't do that because it just brought me to a gray screen. So for the, and I think maybe
I
an
need the
hour
link
in,
too. Also, I'll share
yeah.
that.
So I was at a gray screen for about half of it, and when they finally did show my face, I was more or less like stressed out, like because like I didn't know if I was on or not. But it worked out well. Made a few friends from there. Shouts to my buddies at Infinity Equation and all those good people. I made some friends through this ordeal. But PulseCon last year was for me it was lacking. They announced a few figures. I think they announced like null, at least Marvel Legends did. Transformers, I'll let you take care of that because I don't know if
Mm.
they necessarily announced anything too great last year. And I know that last year GI Joe Classified like took it home. They killed it.
Well,
Um,
now there's going to be a few changes this time around
they're
going
doing
into
Dungeons and
2023.
Dragons this year. I'm trying to really check out their brands. Yeah, so this is featuring Star Wars, Marvel, Nerf, Fortnite, Magic the Gathering, Transformers, Power Rangers Lightning Collection, or Power Rangers in general, GI Joe, which is classified in their classic, Avalon Hill, which I've never heard of, Indiana Jones, and the return of starting lineup. Yeah.
Which I already saw some of that. They started doing their basketball stuff.
Yeah, I saw some of the starting lineup stuff, and I could say I'm excited, but not too excited. But I'll get into it. Maybe I'll start it. Maybe I'll just get it one or two, but we'll get into it. In terms of show schedule, 11 a.m. pre-show. I'm not sure what.
Select people from the different fandoms creating
Okay.
hype. Pretty
Yeah.
much, they got every year they get like I don't want to say B-list celebrities, but they get celebrities that might have a passing interest in some of those brands, so they kind of are there to hype it up and stuff. Every year they do this. Like I think last year for us, like they got Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes to talk about that self-transforming Optimus.
Mm.
So they usually use them for that kind of stuff. I think
And
that was
then,
last year. I don't remember.
so then we have that, and then day one live stream starts fine. Transformers at 1:15. Wow, that's nuts. Power Rangers at 2:15. Starting lineup at 3. Marvel at 3:45. See, That's what I care about right there. And it seems like all the lines that I'm interested is just day one. And then I got to get up at like, I got photos 11 a.m. Saturday, but then I got G.I. Joe Classified. And then the rest is just like, So it's really Friday's my day. And
it's for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's what it really seems like. I mean, the thing is, even with the stuff like Star Wars, a lot of the stuff that Hasbro reveals, if you're part of like the community of any of those, like if you're like a hardcore Star Wars fan or a hardcore G.I. Joe fan or even Transformers or the Marvel Legends, some of that stuff you're already going to know.
Right.
They also they go, oh, we're going to have an hour, but like 15 minutes of that hour is probably new stuff for us. And then the rest of it is like, oh, by the way, this whole wave that we announced a month ago, but, and I get it because they are also marketing to a general demographic that isn't hardcore fans and don't know like every single release that's coming out, even the stuff that gets leaked from factories. And I mean, the more and more that they make stuff in Vietnam, the more and more stuff is getting leaked online.
Oh boy, man, like you wouldn't, man, it's crazy. Yeah, a lot of stuff is being leaked, a lot.
So it kind of turns into this situation where, I mean, I think for the Marvel Legends stuff, to just jump into that, I think that they're going to make a big push, and we're probably going to want to talk about this, but that Haslab Ghost Rider, which is, people literally come into my stream, which is just Transformers, to ask me about it just for the more business side of it. And why? Because, I mean, look, just to like give my 2 cents on it right now, just to get it out of the way.
Let's go.
Is like, you could argue, and I could see that argument in a world where there is no Toys R Us in the American market, that there isn't shelf space for something like that. Like a while back when they did the Marvel Legends vehicle packs, which were motorcycles and scooters, Gwenpool, Deadpool, Logan,
Squirrel Girl, Black Widow, the first Ghost Rider.
Those were like skinny packs. Like you could kind of stock them. Like they did something with the Baroness with G.I. Joe a couple of years after that. That's kind of something that's in the skew of Walmart's and people that I've talked to at Hasbro. They say that they design packaging based on Walmart's dimensions. No one else. So, then everyone else just copies that. Target, and in a world where Toys R Us doesn't exist anymore, they don't think about that anymore. Where, I mean, if anyone remembers back in the day where, when Force Awakens was a thing and they had those Star Wars Black Series, those big TIE fighters, that was like, looked like you were buying a chair or something. But that was in a world where Toys R Us still existed. And it died not too long after that for the American market. But getting back to what I'm saying, so, you go and you go like, okay, well, that vehicle, it looks like it's gonna be pretty large, and to put a 6-inch figure with it, with the blast effects and accessories, like how big would that box be? And you go like, oh, maybe there isn't space on the market. And then, goddamn Todd McFarlane, man, like just trolling.
I feel like he does that on purpose.
Yeah, no, well, you know what? That's why I love him. Because you need to have someone like that. That's just like, look, it could be done. But to be fair, I'm not taking Hasbro's side because Hasbro screws up a lot with a lot of different things and are very greedy in a lot of areas. I mean, the reality is that something like Magic the Gathering is really carrying that company, and it costs them absolutely nothing. I mean, I'll get into that when we get to Magic quickly, just to explain like their money that they're making with that.
Yeah.
But it gets to a point where, you look at that and you go, okay, $350, right? So let's look at it from the Hasbro shill side. Well, Marvel has to pay Disney for the license for Marvel. So Hasbro has to pay the Marvel and Disney for the license. So there's that small percentage that they're already paying anyways by Marvel Legends being a thing. Then, of course, it's the car license. So that's a whole other separate thing. And car licenses actually are a thing. They actually weren't a thing for about 70 years.
And then the Transformers
like car companies didn't care about licenses when the toy industry until about the early 2000s, and it was actually because of Transformers.
Yep.
It was they were doing the reissues of the old Transformers stuff And then Corvette was like, yo, you've been doing this Corvette for like 30 years and we've been not getting a penny for it. And I think it's time, And so they were like, oh, okay. But they worked something out and everything's fine now. And then, of course, the domino effect was the Michael Bay movies and, all those American cars in it. But the point is that for the longest time, car companies were not paying anything. We're not getting paid anything. And now they expect money because now they know that there's money to be made in that. Because it used to be back in the day, if you took like all the toy sales for Hot Wheels that year, it couldn't even buy a Ferrari. You know what I mean? Like one Ferrari, like for that company.
Right.
So it's like, it's something where it was so insignificant back then. But today, when they find out, wait a minute, you're selling a Ford car, our Ford car with some guy with a flaming head, and you're charging $350 when back in the day we were like, oh, that $2 carded 3-inch figure,
Yeah.
So now they want a piece of that. So that cuts into it too. But then we get into, and this is the engineering design side of it, which is when we get into plastics, plastic molds. And that's where I start going like, motherfuckers, what are you talking about? Because let's jump back a little bit to the Sentinel that they did. Now, how much was the Sentinel? Do you remember how much that was?
$399.
Yeah, it was $350 also. It's the same price. Here's the thing. I have guys that they're rich, dumb people. They bought a bunch of Sentinels just to customize them because they wanted to build like a Sentinel army. These are crazy rich people I know that just they're hardcore like Marvel. They buy like Supreme class Transformers and make armies of them. They're nuts. It's a fool and their money are easily parted, to say the least. But so he bought a whole bunch of Sentinels and he was taking them apart. And when this whole Ghost Rider thing happened, he was actually thinking, oh, I'm going to buy like 3 Ghost Riders. I'm going to make one for Johnny Blaze, one for Danny, and then one for this guy, Ray or whatever. I'm not familiar with this new Ghost Rider. I'm going to say up front right now. I grew up with Danny. That was my 90s Ghost Rider.
Everybody likes Danny Ketch, huh? Like, I feel like I got put on to Johnny Blaze, but I feel like everybody who followed Ghost Rider likes Johnny Ketch.
Danny is the Kyle of the Kyle or the Tim Drake of Ghost Rider, to Kyle, to Hal, and to Tim Drake, to Robin. Because if you were a 90s kid, or even better example,
I was going to say
the two I just said, Wally West.
That's what I was saying. He's Wally West.
Yeah, where if you grew up in the 90s, you don't even know. You don't even know those guys before. You just know him. And pop culture only made that. So it's the same thing. Like, even when they did, when Ghost Rider appeared in cartoons or when he appeared in Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
Danny Ketch.
They used that Danny design because that's the design that people are familiar with from like cartoons in the 90s. And it's that 90s flavor. The motorcycle specifically. Go back
with the skull head instead of just a flaming Harley.
Even the way the motorcycle is shaped. And I'm not a big motorcycle guy. I'm a car guy. But like, you see like just the way the body is shaped. It's not like that traditional Harley that Johnny Blaze had. They went more with that Danny kind of look. And I think that, honestly, number one, the argument would be, well, why didn't you just do a Johnny Blaze or Danny? Because then that could have been a retail product, and they don't want that. And Hasbro Pulse, they make a lot of money because how it works is they already plan out the item. When they're showing you like, oh, here's our Hasbro Pulse thing, they already got prototypes ready, test shots. Like, there's no surprises there. They already got this thing ready to go. So you can't even argue, well, there's the engineering, the planning, the design, all that. No, that doesn't count, right? That's not involved. It's just pretty much at the end of the day, it's just the actual item being produced. And when you're talking a multi-zillion-dollar company, the number one toy company in the world behind Bandai in Japan, they don't need our money. But what they're doing is they're getting, I don't want to crunch numbers right now, but at $350 a piece, if they sell 8,000 units, that's what, $4.4 million. They're just going to take that money and they're just going to put it in the bank. And then let me ask you, do you get your Haslab right away? No, you don't. You wait a year and a half sometimes, depending on what, that Unicron, I think I waited like a year and 2 months or something. And they sit on that in the bank, that 4.4 million, getting interest and everything, where if something happens, and it already happened once where some items got they were shipping it to a certain region and they got destroyed because the boat sank or something.
Yeah.
And they just said, well, we'll refund you. But they refund you, but they made money from the interest. So that wasn't a loss on them.
Nope.
You know, like they make crazy money with that. And so getting back to the Sentinel, what I was trying to say is just the arm of the Sentinel has, I think they said 56 pieces in the arm, including an LED and everything.
Yeah.
The vehicle, the Ford vehicle, is 57 pieces. So just the arm of the Sentinel is equal to the same thing. And cars, when you're talking sculpting, are a lot more simpler to do. If you've ever built a model car, old Revels or stuff like that, they're a lot more simpler. It's a body, it's an interior, and you know they're not going to go crazy on the interior with a shifting gear or anything. They'll have lights, they'll have this and that, axle. They're not. You
might be able to steer the turning wheel, but it's not going to like connect to the front wheel.
Yeah, it's not going to connect to the rack and pinion steering. It's not going to be part of the axle. There's not going to be an opening engine where it's going to be like Lego Technic where it's moving or something. No. It's going to be very bare bones and simple so that it could house an LED light. So there's so many arguments where what they're doing, and this is just typical of what I used to see in the Transformer world, is when they know something does very well, anything. And in this case, it was Transformers, the movies, the Michael Bay movies doing very well. They go, oh, it's doing well. Maybe we'll charge $2 more and see what happens. Oh, still was selling like crazy. Maybe we'll charge $2 more and see what happens. And before you know it, within a 10-year span, our MSRP for our figures have went up $10. And the same thing is happening with everything else. Now, you could argue inflation, but inflation isn't a 30% increase. We didn't have a 30% increase. We did have an increase with inflation, but it wasn't 30%. And then they give the argument, oh, well, you know, it's plastic costs and everything like that. I saw Hasbro go from in China working with Jedi Plastics, because everything is third-party companies. I don't care what anyone says. Hasbro doesn't make your toys. They hire third-party companies in China and Vietnam to injection mold and manufacture your toys, and then they assemble it and they slap their logo on it. But I saw them like they literally just went, okay, it's too expensive to have windows on our toys. We're going to get rid of the window and make it a closed box. So they saved money, you know. But
so it's not the environment. That's them saving money with the closed windows, because I swear they keep putting out these retro cards, even though they say that they're moving on to. Well,
the argument the argument that they've said with the retro card is because it's for a collector market. It's aimed at a specific demographic where it's like, well, the people that are buying the vintage Spider-Man, the animated series retro cards, or the old Toy Biz, you know, gray cards from back in the day, those are clearly older collectors. Thus, those motherfuckers have money, you know. Like, it's just that kind of thinking, and going even the Toy Biz X-Men stuff too. It all falls under that same bubble, but they just they know that they could kind of charge more and still have that bubble. But then they have the closed box stuff, which already people have been complaining about because figure swapping has been supposedly a nightmare in certain areas in the United States, where, I mean, figure swapping was already a problem with the 6-inch figures with wrestling toys and G.I. Joe. And now you're going to put a closed box and then a Walmart worker that's not going to care and/or check. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'd like to return this, and you have like, oh man,
rocks,
right? You know? I'm returning this figure, yeah.
No, it's madness, and to me, it's like they've been using that excuse for a while on, like, let me just grab an example. You know, it's like they used to have, okay, we got to get rid of this, and then it's like, oh, and we're going to get rid of, you know, the original art on the side. We're only going to use one piece of art. Yeah. And we're going to not have bios on the back anymore. It's called copyright. We're not going to have copyright anymore. So we're not going to have to hire that guy. So we save money there. And we're not going to include a trading card or a sticker or a download code or, you know, anything else that might involve it. And what Hasbro started to do recently with their Transformer Legacy stuff, I wish I had some Legacy packaging nearby. Now they're going to have a QR code that you scan. And that's going to be so they could just do one packaging type for all regions. And then you scan yours and it's going to use your GPS on your phone to know, oh, this guy's in Quebec. give them it in French. Oh, this guy's in so and so. So it's, you know, it's going to be kind of good in the future when it comes to exclusives, because Quebec was a nightmare with that. Because, oh, c'est pas de français, we can't have, you know, XYZ exclusive. So that's going to be kind of good, but it's also them saving money and then going, oh, well, we need to save money because XYZ, but they do save money. But what they're really doing is they're saving money so they could then go, hey, our investors of our stocks, look how much money we saved. So make sure to buy more stocks because we had record profits this year, blah, blah, blah. And then that, and as a result, makes them more money because they get more stockholders, which invest more in the company. And then they just turn to us in Haslab and go, hey, despite the fact that we're a multi-million-dollar company, we need you to kickstart something for us. That, thank God again for Todd McFarlane, could just go like, no, you don't. Here's my 6-inch Batman, you know, going for $50. And you know, and that's what I love about Todd, because Todd was the guy back in '92 with Todd's Toys. That was what McFarlane's Toys were called before he was McFarlane's Toys. And he was the guy that's like, hey, man, let's take 10 cents away from the plastic and put 10 cents more into the paint and make something real. And the second he did that, all the other toy companies turned their head and went, oh, snap. You know, like, what is this guy doing? You know, and all of a sudden, like that first wave of Spawn toys, they're not the best QC. Your Violator is going to break. You can't even attach the cape for your Spawn figure. I owned all of them because it was a big deal back then. It's a very historical moment in toy history because it really made all the other companies change their tune. But at the same time, it made toy companies also go, if, you know, yeah, this guy's a small dude now, but people are buying his stuff. And if we don't try to copy him, then we might be in trouble. And it's been that game ever since. It's literally been that game ever since. They've been trying to keep up.
I don't have a problem with Todd and his methods. I just don't like his toys, if that makes any sense.
Well, he's always been statues. That's always
they're not action figures, and he should not call them
he's
that.
Always, again, him, because he came into it's everything that happened with those Image boys to begin with Jim Lee and all of them. They always wanted to do something that was a little more adult and different. And Todd's logic was, well, we don't really play with our action figures, so we don't need like G.I. Joe 12 points of articulation. We just want something that looks really good on the shelf and, you know, maybe have one or two, you know, parts of articulation. So a lot of stuff became statues, especially when he was doing sports stuff. Like that was just legitimately statues. They weren't even like articulated.
Right.
And I mean, but at least what I like about him is he's willing to, you know, because he's not scared of nobody. He has what I call fuck you money, which is is always good to have. Because he has fuck you money, he's able to go and go, what are you talking about? This is how it's done, you know? And even the guys who used to work at Marvel Legends, who now work for Valaverse. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. I know.
Like even them, they were calling them out too. And like long before when they were doing the Rancor, and they were going like, this thing doesn't need to cost this much. This thing is like 3 molds of plastic with 8 paint hits on it. And you're asking this much. And the only way you're going to get the figures if they hit these goals, which are not necessary for the value. It's like, there was a lot of people who really know the business, but they're lucky because most people live with FOMO. They're scared that they're not going to get it. They're scared that if it does get funded, now it's going to be the secondary market they have to go, and it's going to be a nightmare. So they fund it out of fear because they're scared that they're not going to be a part of it. And Hasbro has been taking advantage of that for quite a few years. And again, like people, they think I'm like a shill for Hasbro sometimes, but I literally just call it as it is when it comes to what they do. And sometimes, man, like the Transformer world is very unique because like you're a Marvel Legends collector and you live in that He-Man kind of world. And what I mean by He-Man kind of world is because He-Man for the longest time was a different head, but only 2 different kind of body types. He-Man toys they had what was called Barbarian body or Sorcerer body. And they just had different bodies, different accessories. That's what kind of made it look different. And then new head on it. And you guys kind of have that too. Yeah, there's variation in there, but there's also a lot of similar body types that are used. They save a lot of money with repaints and using same hand sculpts. And
I believe it's certain core characters have their set body, and then everybody else just kind of goes with it. So Wolverine has his own body, Spider-Man has his own body. You could say with Vulcan's release, it used to be Captain America's Bucky Cap, but now Vulcan is the new standard body, and Sunfire had a body. So then they'll rotate those four, and then you have like the old female body and then the new Shriek body, which is like pinless. So they have 7 molds that they really kind of work with. And I hear you. It's not ideal.
And then you look at Transformers where everyone's got to be made from scratch. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Where it's like, and they do repaints. Don't get me wrong. Like Starscream and the Seekers and everything, they do repaints. But the point is that we see in that world where, if you took apart a Marvel Legends figure, it's 17 pieces, and a lot of those pieces are not new sculpts. And tooling is a big part of the cost of manufacturing a toy. And tooling is the molds, which if you've ever seen the molds of these toys, they're like, they have to use a forklift to lift them. They're huge, these things. And they plastic mold inject them with PVC or POM or ABS or MABS or whatever the plastic that's necessary, vinyl in some cases, and it's crazy how much they're asking for this vehicle. And I don't know if it's going to get funded, because there's a side of the community that's like, I don't want to miss out on this, so I'm going to get in on this. And then there's the other side that I respect if they're really standing by it. I don't have skin in the game, so I don't care one way or another, but it's important to me to see what happens, because there's going to be another Transformer Haslab at some point. There's been 2 already.
Yeah.
And the last one they did, I was critical of, because it was a product that I felt could have been in retail, but they didn't do it. But
let me ask you this. How'd you feel about the Hiss Tank?
The Hiss Tank, again, the thing with G.I. Joe in general is that's a tough thing to put in retail already. Already to begin with, that's a tough thing to put in retail. That's why G.I. Joe's not going to be in retail anymore. There's already the talks that it's going to be only on Hasbro Pulse in the future. Because, there's already that conversation. It's already happening. Snake Eyes didn't do well.
That movie.
that destroyed the shelving confidence for retailers for G.I. Joe.
Yeah, because those figs stayed there. Like, I've never seen G.I. Joe waves stay on the shelf. Maybe Cobra and Gun-Ho.
There was clearance for classified Snake Eyes movie stuff. Hey, you want a Scarlet for like $6? Like it was getting crazy at one point. So they kind of damaged their reputation with retailers with a mainstream movie. And then you combine it with a line that either brought them stress. I mean, going into places and seeing you can only one per customer for G.I. Joes. I was seeing at Toys R Us at one point.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, that was our fault.
But the point is that that stuff was a headache for them, and then the retailers just like, look, we're just not interested, and their logic, Hasbro, is just like, okay, then we'll just put it online and we'll see where it goes from there. I mean, they already did all the greatest hits in terms of characters. Now they're just kind of doing the obscure at this point, unless they're going to revisit characters and, now we're going to do Scarlet and classic outfit. But then that's what Super 7's doing, which is that's a whole other conversation.
That's 100% what they're doing. It's funny how they because we'll go back, but it's funny that G.I. Joe started off, and I liked the new tech outfits. I loved them. I was not against them looking newer. And then people complained, and then they came back with classic looking Roadblock, and I was like, okay, he looks good. But then every character after that Amazon exclusive Roadblock has been like, Spirit is more classic looking. I think Storm Shadow is more classic looking. Zaymot and Tomax are exactly how they were as toys. So it's like
Dusty too. Dusty looks pretty.
They immediately just went pivoted and just went, okay, we're gonna do all classic looks, and then for the characters you didn't get, we'll go back and put them on those retro cards, which it's cool, but I feel like I don't know.
And even the retro card ones, they took the Baroness and they're like, okay, she had the little gold on the glasses.
Let's take away
darken that up. Like, let's make it look like classic, because there was a point where. And I know Hasbro's been trying to make this transition. They're trying to get more into video games. There was a Nintendo Switch game called G.I. Joe Operation Blackout. Yes. All of the designs in that video game were based on those classifieds designs. Yes, so I felt like they were trying to build something. They were trying to like, hey, here's these new designs. Here's this brand. Hey, everyone's playing Fortnite and Call of Duty. Hey, maybe you could come play our game. you know, and maybe you'll like it, and then you'll want to buy GI Joe toys, and that's honestly, that's how one way I would go about it too, is you got to tackle that market that you lost many years ago to the video game world and the mobile world. But it didn't work because GI Joe is, again, a very hard brand to sell, and to then turn to Target or Walmart and go, yo, we got this
big old tank.
And the only people that, the last time we did this big black tank was 1983. So literally about 80% of people that are coming to your store are going to have no idea what this thing is. Yep. And we want to, because the difference between a Haslab and retail is retail, let's say just for simple math, every single Walmart in America and Canada, just Walmart, not Toys R Us, not your local comic book store, not Target, just Walmarts in Canada and the United States got 2 of those HISS tanks. Every single one, right? So 1 case, 2 per case, let's say. There's 4,000 Walmarts in the United States. There's like 300 in Canada. So right away there, that's already 8,000 units. That's already the Haslab. Yeah. But we're still talking, which is what their goal was. But we're still talking Target. We're still talking Toys R Us. So for them to manufacture that much with no guarantee that any of it's going to sell, and it's not like it's an exclusive. When you have store exclusives, those are sold units. That's a whole different conversation and why store exclusives exist. But when you're talking something like that, oh my goodness, there's not a retailer on the planet that would have agreed to that. No, you know, for sure not. It's too much of a nightmare. And so, and again, combined with the fact that it's GI Joe that literally just came off of a movie that did dog shit, you know, like it's not good for. I literally talked with Aaron Archer from Hasbro. And he said, like, after that movie came out and bombed, he's like, "Yep, Joe's going on the shelf, like media wise, for another 4 years. Like, we'll come back in 4 years, you know." Yeesh. Like, I mean, it makes sense. We couldn't do it with The Rock, you know. We couldn't do it with. We couldn't do it. We went ninjas because you don't like military, so now we're going to do ninjas. It didn't work with ninjas, you know. And people always say, they're always like, "Oh, well, the movie wasn't good because of XYZ when I saw it." Yeah, but it's not about when you saw it. It's you have to get people hyped without even seeing it. Let me tell you something. No one would have gave their money to Avatar if they knew what they were watching. You know what I mean? For sure. Everyone got tricked into seeing that movie. I got tricked into seeing it. Oh, greatest selling movie of all time, beat Titanic, you know, 3D. So I went to go see it, and I was like, man, this is just like Dances with Wolves or something.
This is Last of the Mohicans with blue people. Yeah.
Thank you. So it's so how it works with movies is you got to get people hyped to go see it. And even if it's not good, at least they made that money. Look at all those Star Wars movies and a lot of Marvel movies and stuff. If they're not hyped, they don't go to see it. So no one was even hyped to see Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes. You know, like no one was even hyped. No one was excited. No one's standing at the marquee at the movie theater, although that didn't really exist in 2021. But no one was standing another thing that paid into it. You know what? We're going to go see that movie. That movie looks fun. That movie looks interesting. There was literally anything else they wanted to see. They were just not interested in that. And that hurt them in retail because the only product that was mass retail, that wasn't a store exclusive or anything, was the Snake Eyes movie. The Snake Eyes movie product, the 3-inch, the 6-inch classified, all that stuff, that was 100% retail. If you went to a Walgreens in the United States, they would be carrying it.
That's true.
That hurt them.
Because I couldn't find regular classified figures. I had to pre-order everything. But boy, did I see Snake Eyes.
I saw them at Toys R Us.
You'd see them at Toys R Us, but you're getting like, you know, the Cobra Island roadblock that nobody wanted because it's supposed to be heavy duty, but they called it roadblock. And like everyone's going for the troopers and the infantry and what beachhead.
Army building.
Right, an army building. So then, but then that wave happened, and then they're like, okay, they were releasing everything in order. And then there was like a block of 16 boxes, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, which was all the Snake Eye movie figures. And they put those out later. And I remember those just sitting and sitting forever.
And there's muscle memory with these companies. Toys R Us goes, hey man, last time we bought these, it became our problem. You know? And then Hasbro goes, because Hasbro has their distributor guy that literally goes to them, go, hey man, do you want next wave of XYZ? And then they'll be like, you know, every toy manager is different for every Toys R Us or Walmart or whatever. And they go, you you know, I'm just going to take one case of Wave 1. Really? Only one case? Are you sure? Yeah, because last month, you know, I got this and it's still here, you know, and we got our SKU and we're not going to put out the old product until the new product. So it's a mess. And they were like, it's going to be tough for G.I. Joe. It really is. And I love that brand, but I love that brand as a 80s nostalgic kid that had fun playing with it in the sand, you know, but at the same time, I understand why it isn't doing well. Because it's much like it's like a guy who was born in the 60s and going, yo, where's my Dick Tracy? Where's my Flash Gordon? Where's my, you know, Buck Rogers? You know, where is it at? Yo, when I was a kid, that was the hottest shit. That was the hot. Yo, Dick Tracy was the shit. Oh, wait, they're making a movie of Dick Tracy in the 90s. Yo, that's going to be the shit. And
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I want those Dick Tracy 90s toys just because those are the only like 5-inch.
They're not getting the Madonna one. The blank is the most rare one.
Yeah, you can't find a lot. The blank, I know he's rare, and because they had holsters for their guns. No toys had holsters for their guns back then. And I saw these Dick Tracy toys. I'm like, they all have holsters. Oh my goodness, I need these. But yeah, you can never find those. But to go back, because as you were saying, you didn't have any pit in the fire for the Haslabs. Myself neither. I didn't buy a Sentinel. I'm an X-Men head. But I told myself, I don't have a house yet, and I'm not buying a small toddler of a toy to put it on my floor. So many people I know.
Unicron is just there's just nowhere. Look at this house, okay?
I hear you, bro.
Nowhere.
There's nowhere.
There's Fortress Maximus and Grand Maximus, at the time, two of the biggest Transformers ever made.
And
Unicron is bigger than that. Right. You know?
So I was telling myself, I was like, there's no way I'm fitting a Sentinel on the shelf. If I get him, he's just going to sit by the floor. A lot of my friends have them sitting by the floor. Same thing with Galactus. Galactus is coming in. I didn't support the Haslab. Yeah, he's bigger than a Sentinel. I just happened to get him because my buddy Quinn, shouts to you, Quinn, said, hey, I have one for you. And I was like, cool, that's amazing. Spooky Barnes, you're amazing. So I'm getting the Galactus, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with him. I might just get it for the figs and see what happens, because literally I don't really see myself with a Galactus that big. And then here comes the Robbie Reyes, who I could not give a spit in the wind for Robbie Reyes.
I find it a very interesting choice of character. Yeah. I mean, again, I like to consider myself a Marvel head, but it's like I know nothing of this character.
I saw him on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's where I got most familiar with him. I knew about him before, but I was like, Ghost Rider with a car, that's not really Ghost Rider to me. However, I did see Blade, and my man Blade had a Charger. So a lot of people are taking this car and they're gonna just give it to Blade.
You know what? Again, Todd's just gonna be a dick, and he's just gonna.
Todd didn't need to do that. Let me ask you. Todd did not need to release, oh, here's my car, and it's just a hollowed out like Batmobile. Like, Todd, we understand that you're the man at this and you cut costs. I understand, but Todd, we didn't.
I know, but I feel like even him, but it's not only that too, because the 6-inch scale is about 1/10, I believe. I'm pretty sure there must be die-cast cars out there in 1/10 scale that are really nice, that are from the die-cast community. My dad's a die-cast car collector. He could probably direct me to something. And that would probably look just as good, that probably match whatever design. I'm pretty sure there's probably something on eBay now. For sure. That's definitely not $350 fucking dollars. You know?
Well, we're not even talking Canadian
American
conversion.
Plus shipping, plus waiting a year.
That's $580. That's $580 something Canadian.
Take $350, put it in a GIC in the bank, and come back in a year. Really? You know what I mean? Like 5% interest. Like it's just that's, to me, it's silly. And I mean, I did it with Unicron because that's like the man in Transformers. Like, and
you're a completionist. Your Transformers collection wouldn't
I'm
be
a Transformer completionist, but I'm also like, the thing with being completionist now is there's so much stuff that even if you don't buy it when it's brand new, it finds its way to you cheaper, because people buy it and then they just go, you know, you want it for like $10 less than what I paid. There's so many of those guys out there, because a lot of people get into Transformers hardcore and then they quit just as hard. And then they just like liquidate their collections, and they're revolving door. There's so many of them come in and out because they get really hardcore into it. They buy a bunch of stuff and then they go, holy crap, where am I going to put all this shit? You know, it's just
not having Unicron, I believe, though, for a Transformers fan is like if they were to put out a Blackbird and you're an X-Men fan and you don't buy that. Or
I compare it to if you're a Black Series collector of Star Wars and they did a Death Star. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
Unicron. Like Unicron is he's a beach ball, and it's like, to me. Let me just pick him up right now. This heavy mofo. Like, to me, it's like not having probably one of the most iconic characters from the 86 movie, which when I would introduce people to Transformers, I'd show them the 86 movie, because that was the part of Transformers that wasn't like cartoony embarrassing. It was this badass, swearing, that death, It had this guy that debuted in it with his removable head and everything. And, it's just, to me, this was worth it. This was worth it because I felt that, at the time with Transformers, let's put them over here for now. It's so big.
So big.
But the thing is, at the time, there wasn't a Transformer. Still to this day, there's not a Transformer bigger than this one. And when we were given this promise, this is going to be the biggest Transformer ever made, and it's based on the biggest Transformer ever made in fiction. It's something where it got just crazy. What are you right there? I'm a big
Transformers fan. I can live without him. I don't know.
Well, you know what? The one thing is there's options, because here, I'll just pull this up right here. You can barely see them though. Oh, the bar's getting in the way. That was the first Unicron toy right there from Transformers Armada.
Yeah.
And it's still a large figure. The thing with Transformer fans where they're lucky is they have options. You don't like this Optimus? It's like buying a Spider-Man toy. Yep. Oh, you don't like this one? Here's 12 other 6-inch ones that are multi-articulated that do the job. There'll probably be more than one Spider-Man 2099 figures in 6-inch scale that are multi-articulated in the next 10 years. So you'll always have options. They'll put it on a vintage card. They'll put it on a normal card. They'll put it on a closed box.
We have 3 right now.
Well, there you go. So it's the same thing with Unicron. There will be options, but it's just, to me, I knew that they were never going to do something this big ever again, because I firmly believe, and it's a hot take, I don't think this thing got backed. I honestly think it got close to it, and Hasbro like, fuck it. Just let it. We spent so much time shopping this around, bringing it to convention, showing it off, to say that it didn't get backed, because that'd
be ridiculous. They could take a hit like that.
They were worried. If you look at the history of the Unicron, the backing got extended. Like, they went, we're going to give it an extra. So right away, it's like, okay, it's interesting.
Sketchy. But I mean, Transformers, the brand didn't want to take that hit. Like, you see how the Rancor didn't get funded, and now everybody trash talks Black Series.
Well,
and Black Series isn't the best to begin with. But
the Cookie Monster. I don't know why the hell they were even thinking of doing that.
That was ridiculous.
We all know those hardcore Muppetites, or whatever they want to call themselves, that are buying hot toys of Kermit the Frog, which again doesn't exist anything. I'm just saying here. And so them going, people are looking for that Cookie Monster. And then when they did the Rancor, that was anyone who knew toys and how they're manufactured was going like, what are you guys doing? That was them being cocky. That was them going like, we got him with the sail barge. We got him with the Razor Crest. We're going to get him with this Rancor, because now we're talking old school, yo. Now we're talking like Return of the Jedi. You're going to get a Luke. You're going to get – and no, people are like, no, you guys are screwing us at this point. And then they did that lightsaber, which didn't do well, but I'm not too familiar with what that lightsaber was from. It was from
I don't think the lightsaber happened either.
No, it didn't do it. It didn't do well, but I forget what it was from. It was from one of the newer shows, which I'm not too
Obi-Wan.
So I think that's another reason why.
Yeah. Second sister's lightsaber, nobody wanted it. Yeah.
And it's just, it's the way that things are going is slowly people are, and look, we live in a world where not everyone's made out of money, and people get fed up, and they realize that, you could pick up Unicron, and then you go, okay, was it worth the money? For someone like me, where I love the 86 movie, that's one of my favorite things of Transformers ever, is the 86 movie and Beast Wars. So those were 2 very important things to me. But if I was someone that grew up on Beast Wars only, I don't think Unicron would be that important. Then I can understand not wanting to spend the $600 American, and shipping, which it came to $1G when it was all said and done. So it's something where I can't imagine someone who has no connection to that, because the beautiful thing with Transformers is it's a multi-generational brand. Marvel, Spider-Man is Spider-Man, no matter if you're from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. But if you're a 80s kid, it's G1. If you're a 90s kid, it's Beast Wars. If you're a 2000s kid, it was the Unicron trilogy.
Wars.
If you're a 2000
Armada.
late 2000 kid,
Yeah.
you grew up on those Michael Bay movies, you know, and now those Michael Bay movies
True.
are 12 years old, you know. So there's kids.
Quick question. Actually, not even real side
Go ahead.
bit. Was the Armada series really good? Because I just saw the cell shading and it turned me off.
You talking about the original Transformers?
I didn't love No, I'm talking about 2000. So Armada, whatever the Unicron series as you call it, but it was Transformers,
Unicron
Armada,
trilogy,
and then the other two series.
The biggest flaw with those was that they're Japanese shows, and when they were dubbed over here, it was a disaster. Cartoon Network.
Yes, that's what it was. It was just
at the time they got like Ocean Studio, which were the guys who did Dragon Ball and stuff. And they just, I don't know, the dub was not good. I always tell people when you consume Transformers, watch it in the language that it was created in. So G1 was America, so you watch it in that language. Beast Wars was in Canada, so you watch it in English. But when you get to the Unicron trilogy, everything was made in Japan. So watch the Japanese version. Especially Armada. Armada actually has tons of animation errors that were not present in the Japanese version because they rushed it out. We need to dub this right away. So they gave them like not even test footage. It was a nightmare. And it's okay. It's clearly Transformers being Transformers, which is, here's a fun fact about Transformers. Despite the fact that they are pop culture icons, they have been copying other brands to stay relevant since the beginning. 1987, the Ninja Turtles came out, and then they were like,
yeah.
And they did the Monster Pretenders and Mutants, and which were more action figure kind of based. Then in 1989, Micro Machines came out by Galoob. They did the Micro Masters, which are literally in their commercial. These are micros that transform, you know. So they did Micro Masters. Then Toy Biz was doing amazing with their X-Men figures. Literally what you have back there, the homages to them. So they scratched their chin again, and they did the Action Masters, which were action figure Transformers that didn't transform, which was very controversial at the time. Then in 1993, Power Rangers made its big debut and shook up the world and became this global brand that exists to this very day. They scratched their chin again. They said, hey, take those Dinobots and give them different colors. Because at the time, Power Rangers had dinosaurs that were different colors. Grimlock was blue. He wasn't red, he was blue. Slag was green. He wasn't blue, he was green. They did that on purpose to make people make mistakes and grandmas pick up the wrong item back in 93 when Power Rangers was taking over the world. Let's keep going. Then Jurassic Park comes out. Jurassic Park comes out, becomes this global brand. Oh, dinosaurs, velociraptors, T-Rexes, Beast Wars, dinosaurs, velociraptors, T-Rexes.
Motherfucker, these guys are diabolical.
Then we get to Transformers Armada. Got to catch all the mini-cons. Yeah. Gee, what the fuck came out in fucking late 1999 to 2001 that was taking over the world? And at the same time, because of Pokemon, anime became huge because now all these companies are like, shit, you could just import the anime, import the toys, slap it on, boom, and you're done. You know, which literally that's what Hasbro did with Pokemon. All the Pokemon toys were just the Tomy toys that they had. They made a licensing agreement and they put it out here. Now they're merged. They're one company together. But back then they were just an agreement. So same thing with Pokemon. Then when Lego became huge, oh, everything is awesome. Creo, they do Creo because Lego's huge. Bakugan, which is like you throw this little marble and it transforms. They did Bot Shots, which is their version of Bakugan, which is little transformers you shoot when they transform and when you play against each other like a tabletop. Then there was Hero Clicks, which were ridiculously popular with the tabletop community. They did Marvel Hero Clicks and DC and everything. They did Tactics, which was Hasbro's version of Hero Clicks off of their brand, Star Wars, Marvel, Transformers. They've been doing this for years. And I could go on. I know I must be forgetting something, but it's like they've been doing this for years. And again, the transforming aspect has always been unique to them, and it's always what made them, you know, so special and stuff. But at the same time, they always were copying what was popular because they knew that while they had that transforming element, everything else has to be taken from, like, they were looking at those Marvel movies they were looking at those Marvel movies and they were salivating trying to figure out how they could emulate those Avengers movies. They were just like, how do we get that? And they just, do we do a crossover? Because that's what they were thinking about. They're like, do we cross over with G.I. Joe and Gem and Battleship, or what are we going to do with this? Rom the Space Knight mask? Like, they didn't know. They were playing with ideas in their head, and you could Google this. They had this idea called Unit E, which was this one-shot comic book that they put out at San Diego Comic-Con, where it was like all the brands in Hasbro were going to be part of this one continuity, fighting an over.
Yeah, then they put in, wasn't it? Okay, so I do remember that because they had the Transform Joe. I don't know if Silverhawks were in there. It wasn't Silverhawks.
No,
it was the other ones with the Lumineers. It was Lumineers.
Your Visionaries referring to.
Visionaries. That's it. Visionaries.
Visionaries and Cops are two brands that Hasbro has that they used for years to kind of protect trademarks. So like in Cops, you have characters named Inferno, Barricade, Long Arm, all Transformer trademarks. They do that a lot. There's G.I. Joe characters named Sideswipe, Shockwave. Look, there's a Transformer character named Roadblock. There's a G.I. Joe character named Roadblock.
Yep.
I mean, that happens a lot. It's so Visionaries was another one of those where they're just kind of like, ooh, here's a character named Cryotech, and then here's a Transformer named Cryotech. So those are weird ones where they exist to tell a story, but they also exist to protect trademarks. Now what they do with that is they go, oh shit, we have a Transformer trademark that's expiring, but we don't want to have to manufacture a toy. Put it on a Nerf gun. Barricade 500. Whatever. It's like they do that all the time now.
Right.
There is, which jokes is when Street Fighter was part of G.I. Joe at one point in the 90s. People don't remember that. The G.I. Joe and Street Fighter, the toys were under one brand with Hasbro. Hasbro, in order to keep the Devastator name for Transformers, the iconic Constructicon name, there's a G.I. Joe Street Fighter vehicle named Devastator. And that's how Hasbro. That's the business side of it. That's where you get into the weeds and you start. There's My Little Pony characters named after Transformers. There's like Cosmos, Beachcomber. I know I'm forgetting some tracks.
Genius.
It's the same thing. Like you'll have Iron Fist. Iron Fist that's Marvel's Iron Fist. Why? Yep. Because there's a Transformer named Iron Fist, and even though they're both under the Hasbro emblem.
That's why. Okay.
There's a lot. Venom is another one. There's a in 1985, predating Todd McFarlane's Venom. There is you can barely see him, but there's a Insecticon named Venom. There's an Insecticon named Venom. You can barely see him over there. It's all the lights watching him out, but and that predates him. And then there was the whole controversy with Bumblebee with DC, where there's Black Girl Bumblebee, and then there's Bumblebee, the Transformer character. And because she was a character that was in a comic book, but she wasn't trademarked, Teen Titans is trademarked. Robin might have his standalone book and he's trademarked and he has action figures, but Bumblebee, the black female DC character, didn't have an action figure or anything until
way later,
later. We're talking like DC superhero girls. So that created that conflict. And of course there was a Bumblebee movie coming out. So they're like, whoa, hold your horses. There's so many fights with that kind of stuff, but it also kind of just Proton is dropping all the knowledge. It's just, it helps you understand what, a lot of times I'll see when people complain about a lot of decisions that are made in the toy industry, and you could have the emotional reaction, which is totally fine because that's why we're in this. We love it emotionally, but then you also have to see why they do what they do. Sometimes it's scummy. Sometimes it does make sense. And you go, okay, I could see it that way. There is scummy times too. There's a lot of times that happens, again, the last Haslab Transformer, I think wasn't kosher in my opinion. I think they said, hey, we have two $80 items that we could charge $300 instead, if we make it a Haslab, and they did that, and it was just me going like, I'm like, I'm not participating, and then Hasbro sent me a sample, so it was like, I was like, okay, I might as well give a shout out now to Anda Seats who sent me this for free.
Shout out to them.
Actually, this is the first time I'm shouting them out too, because I'm supposed to do it this Saturday, but whatever. Whatever. I'm not gonna. I'll do it later, but.
So we'll quickly go through the brands, and I am just gonna pull them up here, and we're gonna see what you expect. If there's anything you're excited for, let's go through these brands. So okay, real quick, we are going to start off with Star Wars. What do you think Star Wars has planned?
Well, they already revealed their holiday figures, which
those are out. Those are coming out. I don't know why
those are such a waste of plastic, but but that's what they're going to be showing. What they always do is they always like, here, we're going to show you all of this. We're going to show you some licensing stuff, meaning, oh, here's a mobile game we're doing. Here's a comic book we're working on. And then they're going to reveal like 3 or 4 figures. Honestly, at this point, it's all going to be like new Mandalorian stuff, Obi-Wan stuff. It's all going to be the new hotness. Right. What it's going to be specifically, I don't know. But it's going to be something pulling from that, because outside of reissuing what they've already done on classic card backs, which is the new hot, easy thing to do, saves the money. They just repaint it a little bit. Oh, no. Now Luke is, the belt is painted a little more screen accurate. Now we're going to put it on a card back that looks like the old Kenner card back. And then they reissue. Outside of stuff like that, I think they're going to really focus more on all the new property stuff, which does well for them. Right. Look, how many Baby Yodas were sold?
Crazy.
Like if they would have known before, they would have like opened up with that.
Definitely.
But I mean, there's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be a lot of Obi-Wan. I'm telling, like Andor, maybe I don't know.
Some Andor stuff, I believe.
There's some brands that I feel they don't make the merch until they're sure it's going to work out. And Andor is one of those where I feel like they're just kind of taking a step back and going, let's see how they're going to react to this one. Because like it's the same thing with Rogue One, that didn't sell well merch wise, even though it was a good movie.
Yeah.
But it did. No one's gonna buy a movie of characters that die at the end.
And then they just put them out again with better face sculpts. So like, okay.
Well, because they have the mold sculpts. They're like, hey, we took the time and energy to put this out here. We'll wait a couple years, and then that muscle memory isn't there with retailers because they don't remember. Oh, Rogue One, what was that? That was like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago is forever for them. So then they could put it out again, and they don't remember.
I recently bought the only Black Series figures I've bought were from the Bad Batch, and I recently opened all of them because I got the entire team, so I opened them. Those are some of the worst articulated figures I've seen in a long time. I don't understand how people really die by Black Series, because I'm almost like, if this is what you're getting for the same price as Marvel isn't pricing.
Star Wars fans are peculiar because they lived, and it's kind of like with G.I. Joe, they lived the 3-inch life for so long
that they don't
that old Kenner Power of the Force was the lifeblood of all of those collectors, those hardcore collectors for years. And it's so crazy how they were just able to switch up a price point and get everyone to just now, all right, now you're 6-inch. It's your new game. It's like, imagine if like they just said, hey, all that Transformers you're collecting for years, yeah, we're making them all bigger now, and you have to rebuy all those characters again. We got you to buy Aunt Beru pouring blue milk, Toy Fair magazine exclusive back in 1995. So now we're going to have to figure out a way. How are we going to sell them Aunt Beru again with pouring blue milk? Well, if we make it a 6-inch figure and a Target exclusive, we sell them Aunt Beru again. And I know if you Black Series collectors, and they go out of the way. One of them came with me. Shout out to Larry. We went to HasCon, and that was one of the exclusives. That was like the Get exclusive there for Black Series collectors. They had a stormtrooper of some kind. So like, I get it. And again, there's the army building aspect. So they just print money with that stuff.
Do they actually? Are you a Star Wars collector? Do you know
with Star Wars? I'm very picky. I like Jedi Knight Luke, which is Return of the Jedi, black suit, green lightsaber. But when I got my the best Jedi Knight Luke figure ever made was done by a company called Medicom, Japanese. I bought a 12-inch one. It's like the best. I'm one of these guys. Second I get the best version ever of that character, why do I need a 6-inch inferior whatever when I have this one here that has the cloak? He could go. These are the droids, if you look it up, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's like a doll almost. Like it's the Japanese fake. when they go all out, man.
They go in,
Yeah, and this was made like back in 2010. You know, like it was made a long time ago. So I kind of got fulfilled that. And then it's like the odd Greedo figure. Oh, is this Greedo nice? Black Series hasn't spoken to me just because I kind of got my fix with those characters many years ago. I love Star Wars to death, but outside of a new character coming around and me going like, okay, I gotta own a Sabine figure, or what was that other one there? There was that animated series there that I watched that wasn't too bad. That had like a racing element to it that was kind of interesting. I forget.
Oh yeah, I can't remember that.
And you know they have like unique 3-inch figures and stuff, but in general, I get my fix. Like I feel that like what I want to get, character representation, as I like to call it, like getting that perfect character representation. Once you get that, it's like I see how the statue guys work. You know, they just want to have that one perfect statue of that one character they really love to put in their DTOF and just leave it there forever. And that's their representation forever of Darth Vader. Where the action figure collector is more like, I want to get that perfect Darth Vader that's articulated so I could do all the different poses, and I'm into photography because that's all of us are photographers. Like Instagram, if you're a toy collector and you don't have Instagram, you're only doing half your job, you know, in my opinion.
Big facts.
You know,
big facts.
Like my Instagram is more historical. It's more like, hey, here, check out this rare thing. Check out
but
this.
You're still taking the photos. You're still doing it. You know.
Yeah, but I still because it's fun. It's fun, and the fact that other people enjoy it too. So you don't get that with being a statue collector. You know what I mean?
You do not.
Like if anything, the best photos of the statue was the company that you bought it from. I mean, they probably took the best photos already.
That's true.
Because it's only going to do one thing,
right.
Or two things if it's a swappable thing with Sideshow. But it's to me, the way I see it is with Star Wars, unless you're like really like you have to be entrenched in that fandom and really love these characters and buying the merchandise and buying the figures. I was a completist of Transformers, just not of toys, but everything. Everything. They made fucking wrapping paper. I bought it back in the day. And what broke me was when the Michael Bay movies came out. Because the second I was standing in 2007 in the hardware section of Walmart holding a Transformer branded fishing rod, that I think I've hit the wall, you know? And then I was like, nah, not. Yeah. I bought the tackle box though, because that's a nice thing to hold. I bring to this day. I bring it to conventions for like my post-its.
Your post-it stuff, okay.
Yeah, like
that's
for like my markers and everything.
Yeah.
But
the fishing rod, I was gonna judge you a little bit.
Yeah, that served the purpose, but that's where I kind of drew the line after 2007 when the merchandising machine went burr and just putting out everything. Oh, we're gonna do bath towels and stuff. But there was a point where I was buying everything, but it was modest. Oh, there's a Beast Wars puzzle, you know, and then that was it. There was a this and that. So now I'm very picky with stuff, and because I see there's not as much FOMO with Transformer fans, they buy the product and then 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks later, they're already like, you know, maybe they want to part with it. And I always look at sales. That's a big thing too. I'm like, I literally on my Discord, I'm always posting sales. Like, hey, this week Target 30% off all Transformers, Toys R Us, Like there's, you know, Amazon's like 50. Haslab had a huge sale not too long ago, which was everything. And I got these motherfuckers on sale. These guys.
Wait, what? When?
So what? Haslab, I don't know if anyone's in the chat that remembers this. Haslab did.
I need to go get, because I bought Wolverine and Storm full price for them damn VHSs.
The only one that wasn't full price, I think, was the Mr. Sinister. Or no, the Storm, I think. Oh no, the Jean Grey. Excuse me, the Jean Grey wasn't full price. But
yeah, Jean Grey I have to get. Jubilee I still have to get. Like Sinister.
I don't remember I know Wolverine was first. That's all I remember.
Yeah, Wolverine was one I got. Yeah.
Haslab at one point, and it made everyone open their eyes. Haslab at one point had this huge sale where everything was like on crazy clearance. Yeah. It was like buy 2 Masterpiece Transformers, get 1 free. It was like crazy. They were just trying to liquidate stock, and it made people go like, oh my God, why did I buy this stuff full price? Because there was like big items that they were trying to get rid of. And those VHS series are aimed at a very specific, crazy group of people like me who own those VHSs still to this day upstairs. Okay. I own them. Like that photo shoot is coming one day where it's going to be the old VHSs with the new ones. But I'm waiting for like Morph, and I think they're doing Professor X is coming up too.
Yeah, I
So
think they're
they're
gonna
probably
do
going to reveal
Beast.
something
Yeah, they'll
this
probably
weekend. I
reveal
wouldn't be
something.
surprised.
Actually, we
So,
can go right into it. What do you think? First of all, okay, what do you think Transformers is gonna drop for tomorrow? Anything?
I know 100% we're going to see the shattered glass version of him,
Yep.
of Blaster. They've been teasing it for a while now, and this is going to be the prime opportunity for that. I think there's going to be no Rise of the Beast product, which is the next movie. I think they're saving that for a New York Comic-Con or something,
Okay.
where they're going to have a lot more. This live stream is just for people who are fans of Hasbro products.
Mm-hmm.
The media-related brands, they're going to save for something that's more everyone is paying attention, even if they're not fans of those brands. Because then you get those passer buyers that are going to be like, oh, hey, I really like Star Wars. What's going on with Transformers? Oh, there's a movie that's coming out. Oh, Beast Wars. I grew up with that as a kid. I'm going to check that out. Optimus Prime. I remember that gorilla. Like they're gonna play it up that. So we're not going to really see that during Haslab. I feel we're just going to kind of see. I think we're going to get a reiteration of what's going to be coming out at the end of this year to 2022, Q3 and Q4. We're going to get some of Q1 2023. We're going to have this revealed, and they're probably going to have some pre-orders drop on Haslab as a result of it. They always do that. They always go like, hey, here's this 2 items, and the pre-orders are up now, so go get them. And then you'll get them in March of 2023 or whatever. And they're amazing with that. Like,
any
just
predictions?
lock in that money early, let me tell you.
Any predictions you have for Indiana Jones? Like
Hasbro's had the license since Crystal Skull. The best thing about Indiana Jones back in the day was it was the best way to get your Shia LaBeouf action figure for your Transformer collection.
That's for damn sure.
Because he was in that movie, so it's like, hey, we could get a Sam Witwicky figure. So, but those didn't do well. Those were a 3-inch line.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't sell very well. They went on clearance. There's rumors that Harrison Ford's coming back to the role for like one last time again, so they're probably something, whatever it is.
You think they're going to put out like a Haslab whip or something crazy?
Nah, I don't think, I think that, Haslab really doesn't rely on broad pop culture, and it relies on a small number of hardcore fans that are willing to pay stuff out of fear or worry that it might not happen, where a Indiana Jones whip is such a retail item. It's such a hot topic item. It's such you know what I mean? It's something where, yeah, they could do it, but it's
why?
Cringy. It'd be like, really? Like, it's made out of real Corinthian leather,
It comes with a hat.
It comes with a hat that may or may not have been worn by Harrison Ford. What are they going to tell you to get you to buy that?
True. Fortnite. What could Fortnite's new characters?
What's it called? They're just recently announced their sequel, their Overwatch. So Overwatch announced their sequel. So Fortnite is going to have to try to keep up with that because that was kind of their rival arena shooter kind of game. So they're probably just going to be announcing new product. That stuff sells. You go into any Toys R Us, collector section. That stuff's never on sale. That Roblox, Minecraft, that's the whole mobile gaming world. Yeah. Younger demographic that buys that stuff. So they don't need to make as much because it's not us. I don't want to call us boomers. We're not, but it's not that, that Gen X collector that has a little more money that could buy everything on the shelf. So Fortnite, they have they'll usually do 2 packs. They're a weird scale. They do their stuff too.
It's like kind of 7-inch, but not. Some of them look like really good
builders. I know some of my G.I. Joe friends, they were buying some of the Fortnite stuff because it looked like Joe characters. There was one that looked like Firefly.
Yeah.
And Beachhead.
Yeah.
So, but they say it doesn't scale correctly. So it's a little bigger.
Yeah.
But so they have a market for that. There's people that buy it, but I can't really say what they're going to show. I have no idea. But I know that with Overwatch doing their big, hey, here's our big sequel after being this big brand that we're pushing, I'm pretty sure they're going to have some kind of answer to that because that's kind of their rival company.
Okay. I will go to Nerf next.
Nerf, I have no idea. Nerf is doing a lot of crossover stuff. I've seen that. They recently did. What did I see that they did? They did a crossover. They're taking all the other Hasbro brands and making Nerf product of it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised with the D&D coming up. They're going to do some bow and arrow.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna
A crossbow for sure. 100%.
They Nerf, like for Hasbro, their three biggest brands has always been Nerf, Magic the Gathering, and Transformers, meaning the brands that they own.
Yeah.
And those have always been their three biggest ones. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's just tons of like crossover product, because that's the easiest for them. They did Nerf Transformer stuff. I haven't.
That's true. Speaking of another thing they own Power Rangers, and I want to see what they're going to do with that. I don't feel like, okay, no, I do feel they've been really catering to the Mighty Morphin crowd, and I don't blame them for doing so, because that's the people who are going to buy your product at the end of the day. A lot of the fans are complaining it's too much Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and they need to do other shows. But to be very, very honest, and to point to my Ranger collection up there, nobody really wants to see anything other than Mighty Morphin stuff.
Whenever I see stuff on clearance, it's the other brands.
Yep.
I'm going to call it by its Japanese names, but Mega Ranger, which is
that's Mega Ranger is
in space.
Power Rangers in space. So yeah,
like I saw that Deca Ranger, which is
SPD is my favorite. SPD was my favorite too.
You know,
yes, we're cool.
But again, it's like G1. You know, it's like they love Mighty Morphin. Mighty Morphin is the G1 of Power Rangers. So you just kind of can't disconnect that. And especially when like King Sphinx went on clearance. They did one of the monsters, King Sphinx.
Yep.
They put him out there. He didn't do well. He started going on all these clearance places.
$14 I got him for. Hell yeah.
Jeez. Look how big and heavy he was too. Imagine what was the plastic cost on
big
that?
And heavy, but not painted properly. And that's what
was it? Okay.
It wasn't like it was painted, but like there's just no detail in the face, kind of like the null figure they
I was
just
wondering, because I'm like, man, that's a lot of plastic to inject and stuff. Okay, so if the paint apps were kind of lacking, okay.
It's sad. I actually have all or most of their monsters that I just haven't opened because I have no. It's a FOMO thing where I bought them because I'm like, oh, I may not see them again, and when I want the monsters, I won't be able to get them.
If there's one thing they're not going to reprint, it's going to be the monsters,
right? No, and they're unique bodies each time, so it's
they're all unique sculpts. No one's going to want a second wave of Pudgy Pig, you know, or again, King Sphinx. Goldar maybe might get a release because that's a little different, you know, no wing with wings, you know. Like
I have both versions, and there's like they're just sitting there.
Goldar, they'll do some kind of wacky repaint or something, but those ones probably not. But like Eye Guy and not Naughty Knight.
I skipped on Eye Guy. I should have gotten Eye Guy.
But those ones again, those are going to be like one shot. You know, like I don't see them like. What are they going to do with that mold again? If it did, and again, if King Sphinx didn't sell well the first time, why are they going to put it out again? Yeah. And again, from my perspective, that was a heavy manufactured product. A lot that shelving space, that's the wings took space. It's, when you think about the Rangers were much more sleeker and they sell more.
I just saw today at Toys R Us to carry Ready Cliptor, like a bunch of them just sitting there. But Ready Cliptor was in one episode for maybe 10 minutes. Why'd they do that?
And again, that's
super
popular
niche
with the fans. They like In Space and Lost Galaxy.
Yes.
But the mainstream audience that, hey, remember Power Rangers
is Mighty Morphin. Maybe Zeo.
Most toy sales are made by those people. You know, when you go to the impulse aisle at Toys R Us and you see an aptly named the company Super Impulse that makes the world's smallest He-Man and world's smallest, those guys, they get from those companies a press kit, and the press kit says, hey, if you're gonna, you paid for the license for our product, here's what we want what you should make. You can do whatever you want with our license, but here's what you should make to make money. And they always suggest Mighty Morphin. Like, if you're gonna do it, you have a choice of all the He-Man characters ever made, and you can only make 4. Who are you gonna make? Skeletor, He-Man, what's it called there? Tila, and maybe do a Battle Cat, maybe a Panther if you really want to push it, but no one knows Panther. It's something where, you do Beastman, maybe Merman. You have to stick to those greatest hits.
Yeah.
And that's what they will always do. Always. And with Power Rangers, their greatest hits is Mighty Morphin. It's a Rita Repulsa, a Lord Zed. The second you start going into Zeo, the second you start going into Turbo and all of that stuff, it's not that it's bad or good, it's that it's not known as much. By then, people like Turbo 1995, kids are looking at the X-Men cartoons now. They're starting to look at other stuff. They're starting to look at I'm trying to think what else was hot in '95. Spider-Man cartoon was already in
Shadow Raiders, kind of.
Well,
Beast Wars Shadow Raiders was '97. Beast Wars,
Shadow Raiders was '98.
'98.
Which was fantastic, but not
Fantastic
loved enough, in my opinion.
Actually, I said that I was mentioning this on the podcast yesterday, but Mainframe did so much with dick all in terms of content. Like they had battle planets, and they made
one of the most amazing companies of all. I always tell people, go watch an episode of Beasties, not Beast Wars, Beasties, which is the Canadian version. Wait for the end credits of the Canadian version. And it says right at the end, this entire production was funded by the Canadian Government Animation Act, meaning Mainframe had a blank check to make the most amazing content ever. And someone posted a clip from Beast Wars just a couple days ago on Twitter, and I watched it and I went, man, CG today isn't that good.
Nope.
Like I watch all these CG shows that are on Netflix made for kids from Korea and stuff, and I'm like,
it's not that good.
Beast Wars was made 25 years ago.
Bro.
And it looks like so amazing.
That season one, the season one finale where Megatron kind of won, and Optimus, Megatron. I was just like, oh,
that was
man.
Both seasons actually. First season, he exploded. Second season, he warped time.
He did scream Megatron.
Yeah. Say goodbye to the universe, Maximals. The future has changed. Yes, the Autobots lose. Evil triumphs, and you no longer exist. To be continued. See you in a year.
See you in a year. Oh man, those summers.
You can tell I like Transformers.
I can tell for sure. And finally, Marvel. What is Marvel gonna? I mean, Dan Young from Marvel has said, "Get your wallets and your money ready."
Logan figures that they're behind on.
Mojo. They're gonna finally probably announce the Mojo that got released in Target because maybe.
It's gonna be mid to late product of current Disney property, Netflix series, and hopefully some cool. Like, I'm the kind of guy that, like, when they did their, I forget which wave it was. I think it was the second to last wave when they showed that classic Sabretooth. Like I call it the Iron Fist Sabretooth. Like
it is the Iron Fist Sabretooth. Yeah.
Iron Fist number 15. Like I was all over that. Like I was like, that's the figure I want. Like, so I'm weird with the legend stuff. I want like that more classic stuff that I read back in the day and getting those figures. So I'm kind of hoping we get more of that. Yeah. Like I'm like if they did like a Hulk 2099, I'm the one weird guy. It's gonna be like, I want that. You know,
I would lose mine over that. I'm a completionist, so I still need them to complete like the 80s X Factor team. I still need a Wolfsbane. I need Feral. There's a bunch that I'm missing. So
that's where, and again, that's where I was glad for people when they started doing those Toy Biz X-Men recards, because like, man, the Rogue prices were getting crazy.
Yep.
You know, the Storm prices were getting crazy at one point. So it gave people options at least to buy.
What kills me about that whole thing is that out of all of those, so X-Men has gotten the least love out of all the retro cards. X-Men has, counting Apocalypse and Beast coming, they have only 12. This retro series is up to like 20, I think, 22. Spider-Man over here is clocking 26.
I think maybe the reason for that, and this is just my own personal opinion, it's not fact. I think, and this happens a lot, sometimes when something doesn't sell well and they took the time and energy to invest in the mold, they go, how can we get some of that money back? And they'll re-release the figure. Because think about it, right? Let's say who was Vision back there, right?
Yeah.
You know, they go like, shit, we put out that Vision, it didn't do well. Yeah, but we took the time to sculpt the cape and you know, and so then they go, you know, we'll just put on new card back, new paint hits, and then put it out again, and maybe we'll make our costs back. And especially with, you know, some of those were store exclusives, not all of them, but some of them are.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into this topic, and I have it on. I don't want to plug my podcast, but I have a whole segment where, because we have in the Transformer fan, people hate store exclusives. They hate them. A lot of people do. But I made a segment explaining why they exist and the whole, like, I guess we'll call it the whole science of it. There's this weird symbiotic relationship of why store exclusives exist, why they are so prevalent, and why actually we as fans should want them, because some products would never happen if there weren't store exclusives.
100%, yeah.
Because
we wouldn't see a Quasar figure if it wasn't fuck out of here. A Jigsaw toy? Are you kidding me?
The lovely 90s book that no one read except for that Flash cameo that wasn't the Flash.
Right. Binary, we would never see a figure for Binary.
Binary's a weird one. That's something that's something that maybe if Captain Marvel's a movie was more well received, maybe some of those characters would.
Right.
You know, like sure. those are ones that they were, you know, when they do store exclusive. Like I don't know so much with Marvel because the store exclusives are sometimes stuff that you know would sell well.
Yeah.
But I know with the Transformers, they all like the designers of Transformers. They're like, I really want to make this character, but this character will not sell for shit if we do it. So if we make it a Walmart exclusive and they have to buy a case of 8 of these and it's a sold exclusive, meaning they have to buy it and it's their problem.
Their problem. Yep.
Then hey, now we're going to make our fan wank characters we always wanted to make that normally would not fit in a normal retail environment. Because when it's a Walmart exclusive, now it's only Walmart. Now you don't have to worry about millions of units for Targets and Toys R Us's and everything.
I feel like they've tried that many times this year, specifically with the Walmart exclusive Doctor Strange, except for Walmart.com. Walmart US took it and they were fine. Walmart Canada was like, yeah.
Well,
to the point, and then actually Hasbro Canada made it available to other places within Canada because Walmart Canada
we have a weird deal with a lot of toy companies. Like anything that's a Target exclusive potentially could be Toys R Us, or potentially could be GameStop.
Yeah,
potentially could be like Jean Coutu. You know, just shows up. Oh, all of a sudden. That happened where my friend showed me. Where was it recently? He just showed me the Target exclusive X-Men crossover Transformer.
Yeah.
Where did he show me that showed up?
Farmer Pre,
I think it was. Yeah, because they sold so badly at Target that they
shipped them all over here.
Farmer Pre just ends up with a case of them. Yeah. And they were on sale, and he's like, "Is this a good price?" I'm like, "Bro, no one wants that stuff, you know."
Yeah.
Like in Farmer Pre, I think was asking like it was originally like $40 American. Farmer Pre was asking like 24 Canadian for our Canadian listeners. If there is an American listeners who are like, "What the hell is a Farmer Pre?" Just think CVS in here.
Yeah.
Think CVS or Walgreens with pills.
Basically.
There goes Unicron. He's too big. Anyways, but it's to me like. When it comes to the Legend stuff, I think what I would like to see is just more of that weird stuff and again, it sounds selfish, just that weird stuff that I really like. I mean, I'd love a Rom the Space Knight. I would love, you know, like, and that's in like, you know,
wow.
They've been trying to get that trademark forever. They did in the 3-inch, they did Death's Head, which was another obscure Marvel character that was really popular. He made a cameo in the Transformer books.
They made Death's Head 3.
For 6-inch. For 6-inch, excuse me. Yeah. They never did the original. I want to get that original one, which they only did in 3-inch. You know, Circuit Breaker, which again is another super obscure character, appeared in the Secret Wars books. I'm trying to think of some other.
I want to be yonder.
Nebula with long hair.
Comic book Nebula, yes. Comic book Gamora, comic book Nebula, yes.
Yeah, you know, like those would be so great. Like I remember when they again that X-Men Toy Biz carded stuff. When they did issue number 1 ongoing Wolverine black costume with I was like, geez, there's like 2 toys of that, like 2 versions of that character in existence. They did a 3-inch and they did that one. That's it. Wolverine's first issue, such an iconic image, him on top of all the ninjas, and yet they've never made a toy of him. And it was like, what is going? Like, not a Toy Biz. Not
in his Madripoor costume? Like
so. I don't know, because not Patch.
This one?
Not
Patch.
One, yeah.
This one, Madripoor. Okay, yeah.
So because he also wears Patch and Mandapore. That's
yeah.
So that one they did a 3-inch, which I believe was in a 2-pack, and
this
then that
is my customized Patch, so I know exactly what you're talking
about. There you
about.
go. There.
Patch.
Now you need to get a Great Hulk with him, Mr.
Right?
Fix It. There you go. There's another one. Yeah? But that's why, like, but that's the weird stuff that I like. But that's the stuff that the people who watch the Netflix series go, "What the hell are you talking about?" You know, so
right.
You know, like, and I don't want to go on a She-Hulk rant, but like, you know, and look, I'll be straight. I'll be fucking straight. I read the She-Hulk books back in the day. John Barnes, Chris Claremont. I haven't seen the She-Hulk cartoon, the series yet. The new series. I haven't seen it yet. I just haven't had time. Had time.
Makes sense.
I've seen the complaints, and I'm just going to say this right now, just from the complaints. I don't like. Have you never read a '90s She-Hulk book before?
They weren't that serious. Like
in the cartoon, she did the Macarena. So if she's twerking, she's being current. Okay.
If you liked the comic book run and you took it for what it was.
Well, I like John Barnes, who's a pervert. So yeah.
Okay. So this is not so much perverse, but this show is more or less like.
But he knew what that comic was.
Right.
That's what it
was. And you're gonna know what this show is. This show basically is taking all the controversy that they got and the screaming and the man crying from Captain Marvel, and they predicted it for She-Hulk, and they just wrote it into the show. And that's all they did. So you're going to get a lot of that, but not too much of it. And then the way they do it, like it looks like they're leaning, without ruining it for you, it looks like they're leaning towards hate monger and like a bunch of obscure characters. Intelligentsia is mentioned. Like, dude, you're going to love it.
Yeah, I imagine, because I read those books by proxy because of my sister. Those are the books she got. Okay. My sister has Savage She-Hulk #1 sitting in a long box somewhere in her house. I know. And I told her, I'm like, don't you dare sell that book. Don't you dare sell. I'm like, you sell that book, because she's like, should I sell it now? I'm like, don't you dare sell it. I'm buying that from you if you sell that book. She bought it many years, because back then it wasn't really that expensive a book. It was 1983. It came out 81. It wasn't, and back then when she bought it, because she had Sensational She-Hulk #1, which was a $2 book, and then that one I think was a $10 book, because back then no one cared. They didn't.
Right.
I remember, and same thing. Like, I fell in love with old school Carol.
That's my girl.
Because of my sister, because she was sometimes a backup story with the Avengers books, so she would have those. And then before that, she had the old Miss Marvel books, so I love those ones. That's why I'm not a big Captain Marvel fan.
No,
only because I'm
a Warbird, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel.
I like Miss Marvel, like Warbird is that's what people usually
never got that name. I never understood it. I was like, fine.
Well, especially considering when she took that name, the costume changed a little bit. It had shoulder pads and stuff. So
it's very
but they refer to it as the Warbird one just because I think Secret Wars coined it.
They need to re-release that fig actually, because that fig on the market
that was in a 3-pack at one point.
3-pack that I have.
Bitch to get.
Radioactive Man, which I have. The Captain America I don't have from that 3-pack, but that Miss Marvel cost me at the time 100 something, and I think now it's still going for that.
Yeah, they'll probably reissue. It's just because there's bad mojo with the Carol character, which bothers me, because she's not a terror. Like, I always tell people, go back and read again. Chris Claremont wrote that book. Who wrote She-Hulk, wrote the old Carol books. Fantastic. He knows how to write women characters.
Not only that, but she's a perfect segue for anything X-Men. Just because of her history with Rogue, it's just like, it's right there.
I just firmly believe, and it's just, we're going off topic, but I think that the Captain Marvel movie could have been done
better.
Not done better. It shouldn't have been done in the middle of all this Infinity stuff.
Oh yeah, smacking it like, oh yeah, you got to watch this just to understand why she's saving them.
The snap happens, and then that's where you got to go.
Yeah.
And I firmly, and still to this day, as Infinity Gauntlet is like top 3 favorite comic book series of all time for me, because I love Ron Lim and oh my God, why am I blanking on his name right now? Oh God, he's one of my favorite writers too. So I'm so tired right now. Creator of Thanos.
Oh shoot! Oh man, people in the comics hit me. I know what you're talking about.
Ron Lim drew Thanos Quest and Infinity Gauntlet. Why do I know the artist and not the writer, which should be the other way around?
Hold on,
just Google it for me. I literally was like when I met him in person, I was a stumbling idiot. It's the only time I was
Jim Starlin, huh?
Jim Starlin. Jim, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so tired right now. But no, it's just like him and Jim, when they did that book, man, like that book was incredible. But Chris Claremont, like the way he writes stuff is so good, and he knows how to write women. And when he did Carol, that was like top tier Carol for me. Yep. And his writing style, and again, getting John Barnes to do some of the costumes. That's why Warbird kind of has like a Phoenix look to it, the old Phoenix style.
Look to her
with the
with the satchel. Yo,
it's Phoenix.
Look at that. It's Phoenix.
Look.
That's why I fuck with that costume so much, because I never caught. Yeah, that's Phoenix.
It's Phoenix.
I'm looking at the toys right now, like Simon. I'm almost like, yeah, she has a satchel, and she has a satchel.
Yeah,
The exact same. Yeah,
that's
wow.
John Barn, man.
The same boot length and everything up to the thighs.
Yeah,
And
it's just it's a recolor. That's because he really liked that design and he wanted to put it on other characters, because we only had Phoenix for a hot minute before it was Dark Phoenix, and then it was Madeline, and then who's this chick, and so
they're leaning towards that now. I find not to like, but like actually they're leaning. So they just finished off 90s X-Men. I feel like Hasbro now with the Mojo 3-pack they announced with Longshot, with that version of Dazzler, they just put out a Havoc. They just put out the Reavers Bonebreaker. So like they're leaning towards Outback X-Men, which is that's my X-Men run.
We also had another big reveal recently.
Yeah.
Which was Deadpool. And so even if they want to tease, the lead time on toy development is 1.5 years minimum.
Yep.
Minimum. That's usually how it is. Unless they're rushing a fan vote, then they could do it in 6 months. But in general, it's a year.
Yeah.
So there's already a Hugh Jackman head on a Wolverine body toy being sculpted right now that they could probably show something.
100%.
So that could be there too. Look, it's coincidentally timed. Double shot 2 little teasers over the past couple of days before Hasbro Pulse Con. It's a possibility. I mean, it could, or they could do absolutely nothing. But I mean, sure would be a nice little symbiote. Hey, we showed this, and now we're going to show you some teasers of that. But maybe they won't, because again, it's the media part of it that worries me. Is that when they do media stuff, they go, "Ooh, we don't have as many eyeballs on our stuff."
Yeah.
And that's where, because they at San Diego Comic-Con, they have all the eyeballs. Everyone's paying attention to SDCC. It's like a Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
Everyone's there for the commercials. So
Con, not so much.
It's something where the people are tuning in are really just the hardcore fans. Yeah. And that might be one of the limitations of why we might not see that. It's why I told people I don't expect to see any of the Transformer movie stuff there, because I think that they're saving that for a wider audience to show that off, because those are the people that are going to see the theaters.
True.
I said it myself. I was like, isn't it crazy how his tank sold amazing, but yet no one went to see the Snake Eyes movie? Where were those guys? You know what I mean? Because like I said, the hardcore fans, they're gonna buy the toys, but you need more than just the hardcore fans to buy movie tickets.
Yeah, but those hardcore fans are the same guys who don't understand why they can't release a hooded Cobra Commander. Like that's the G.I. Joe fans that went and bought the his tank. If you want
those guys need to go on Etsy and buy a 3D printed hooded Cobra Commander.
Oh, they definitely will, and they have done so.
I actually bought something from Etsy not too long ago, 3D printed. It's in the other room.
They definitely
I buy all the time. If something needs to be filled, there's always some talented guy who's going to make it.
For sure. I don't care for hooded
Cobra. Might as well talk about that too. They did the Hasbro make a figure of you thing that they're doing. They recently announced that, but they showed a price increase. It's going to be $80.
Now it's $80. Yeah.
And the thing that I'm not a fan of it is the lack of choices.
Of figs, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of like only having a choice between Pink Ranger. I like the Black Ranger. Yep. When I was a kid. I want to, more specifically, give me a Black Ranger with Dragon Shield on it. That would be the hypest thing on the planet. It only happened for a hot second in the show, and they made one toy of it.
They did.
But if I could get my head on a Black Ranger body with a Dragon Shield, then you got my $80. But because I only got red and pink, I'm like, and I'm not a Star Wars guy. I'm not a Ghostbuster. I like Ghostbusters as a movie.
Not $80.
I don't want to be on a Ghostbuster body. So there's not as many options. And they said recently, because it's a resin casted head, you can't just pop it off and put it on other bodies. They say there's a risk that it could crack. So they just gave a warning up front saying like, look, I understand you're not happy about the choices. So even if you do go out and buy a cheap Adam Cole Black Ranger body or something, because maybe the Zach one's too expensive, but if I could get an Adam Cole one, or whatever his name is, the full name.
Adam Cole. Yeah, you got
it. It's like, but they're like, oh, if you pop the head off, it might break. It's funny because they did this many years ago with Toys R Us. Oh God, what's it called? Downtown New York. Toys R Us. I went there. I went there for their closing ceremony.
Times Square.
Toys R Us, Times Square.
Yeah, Toys
Toys R Us. I went there for their when they were closing. I was like, I got to go down. I want to go there for the closing ceremony. So I actually went down to New York for it. I flew into Philadelphia, took the bus into Manhattan. The closing thing, I recorded footage and everything. It was so sad. But what was cool about it though was they had this whole booth, which obviously didn't function anymore. But for literally a good year, they would head scan you.
Yeah.
And then you would pick a Marvel at the time. You know those like 5-point of articulation 12-inch figures that they do,
yeah, I remember those.
And you could put your head on that. So it's like, okay, Hasbro already kind of had that tech back then, and now they're putting it on obviously articulated figures. But again, if they could just for $80, $80 American, and I need more options,
right?
I mean, I don't want to be on a Transformer body, so that's not going to happen. I don't want that, But like, give me like, and same thing. Even and they said that the reason why they were picky with the designs was because they needed characters that are covered from neck to toe because you're black, right?
Yeah.
So if you get, let's say you got you're put on Duke's body, they want to make sure Duke is wearing gloves up to here because if he has skin-colored fingers and shit like that, so it's. They want to make sure that all of the choices they made, even with the Ghostbusters, they're completely covered, up to the neck because there's no neck joint. It's just the head blocks on.
Right.
So they were like, oh, that's the reason. I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it. And it's just like, like.
That's their reasoning for doing a lot of things. They're releasing 3-packs of the Cobra Vipers that they just put out. The only difference between those Vipers and the ones that they put out that were store exclusives is that the Vipers in this 3-pack, the officer is a Hispanic guy, and the 2 Vipers that you get are black guys. And you can tell, but if you take off the cuffs, you see the black skin.
One of the most famous episodes of the original G.I. Joe, which humanized the Vipers, was an episode called The Traitor Part 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah, it is the guy who left. He was a Viper, and he joined the Joes, right?
Well, no, before that guy, that's Mercer you're referring to.
I'm referring to.
There was the first time they ever humanized an individual Viper member was a black character. I forget his name, but it was. People have to go back. It's on YouTube now. They put all the episodes. The Traitor Part 1 and 2 was the Dusty episode, which I kind of created. And so Dusty defects from G.I. Joe, joins Cobra, and befriends this black guy who's one of the Vipers. And you get this like, oh, there's a black Viper guy. Like, oh, we always see white dudes, you know? So it's kind of like a throwback to that because the first time ever they individually made him a character, one of them a character was that time. Guy. And I guess probably from an animation model standpoint, well, if we're going to make them unique, I guess it has to be a black guy now because we've seen them all white up to this point. So they need a different design. He's a little more buff. He has darker skin, So I think that was their logic. But so I think that's why they did that. I forget his name because that was a really good episode too.
I'll have to look that episode up.
Real talk. G.I. Joe, the original cartoon.
Yeah.
Is better written than Transformers' original cartoon.
I believe that.
That's coming from me. Okay,
I believe that. So, there's some G.I. Joe episodes where I was watching them.
They age ridiculously well. Like they're very well written. Like Larry Hama once in a while will pop in and write something, but also they had Christy Marks and some of those other people who she did Gem and everything.
Yeah,
they were very well written episodes. Some of those, and like they're really good still to this day.
Another fun fact.
Another fun fact. It's just the rest of the world doesn't.
Yeah. Real fun fact that you may not agree with, and this is my tidbit. Avengers EMH is much better than the X-Men animated.
No, Earth's Mightiest Heroes is one of the greatest cartoons ever made.
Yeah, Chris Yost, I don't understand how that's not back. I don't understand.
And it was pretty much the success of the Avengers movie combined with Disney kind of now really reigning control that destroyed that.
Yep.
And when you see what would have potentially been
season 3 would have been sickness. Season 3, I cry when I think about it because they showed Black Knight. They were going to do West Coast Avengers. Like I cry. They
were going to do Chris Starr.
Really?
One of the most obscure Mezco toy lines from Marvel. They were going to do a Chris Starr episode with Hulk, where he was going to go to the world of Chris Starr, which is like super deep cut. It was an 80s toy line. Yikes. Marvel did comics, and then they crossed over with Excalibur and
they did Michael Korvac. Michael Korvac.
Well, they were super. What I loved about it was like there was an episode that Hulk left the Avengers, And I was like,
Yep.
that's perfectly timed with Hulk 181 with
Yep.
when he fought Wolverine. And I'm like, whoever wrote this show was like, they were really loving original Marvel, like the House of Ideas, 1960s and 70s.
And they
Like,
made it made sense.
Such a great show.
They made so much sense with the way they did old Avengers stories, and then just okay, let's just cross and do let's do the Kree Skrull War, and just let's do Secret Invasion, and then come back. Let's pop in, do Red Hulk, come back to old stuff.
I like the way they even did the origin story for Carol. You know,
it's so well. It just it was just seamless. It just seamed in, and like new characters are popping in and out.
She's friends with Jan, and you know, like it all works. They just work it all in there. And
second season, episode 1, where they just nonchalantly introduce the Fantastic Four. You're like, God, what? Really? They could have done so much. I almost felt like they were trying to build like an animated universe. Another one, yep.
If you watch the intros to that show, there was a little logo that they were pasting in the corner after I believe 18 episodes or so, where it's like, oh, here's like the MCU kind of like, well, and I don't know if that's because the Avengers movie was being developed at the time and they were really trying to create a brand, but it was so good. It was so good. There is literally, there's a forum online somewhere on cybertron.ca of me every week talking about it with a bunch of people. No joke. Like you could see, like every week we were talking because it was so freaking good. Like Marvel is an episodic storytelling issue-based, the floppies as I call them, kind of story. Nowadays, we're writing everything like a trade paperback, and well, as I like the streaming services and binging, right? Which is now everything is a six issue, you know, streaming service, trade paperback kind of story. But Marvel has always been a 31 to 32 page kind of comic book storytelling kind of format. And all the best stories stemmed from that. Day of the Future Past is 2 issues, you know. First appearance of Wolverine technically is only 1 issue. You know, let me think of something like, you know, when you get into like Thanos Quest, those are technically trades, but that was a different time. Those are a little thicker. But like, and we got Thanos Quest technically through Infinity War. That was kind of their version of it.
Right.
But, you know, those stories, they're so well done. And I always want them to be recreated as best they can. But I know that outside of the original X-Men series, the original X-Men animated series, which they actually had to, by law, credit the original comic book creators because they were so loyal to the original comics that they had to credit the comic creators because, yeah, you have guys who work on the show that adapt it for animation and change the script a little bit. And yeah, okay, it can't be Kitty Pryde. It's got to be Jubilee. It's like all that kind of stuff. But that was the closest we ever got up to that point. And then when Avengers came out, then there was they were like, oh, here's a way we could still give you that old Marvel House of Ideas storytelling and do a twist on it and make it really good. And then we got that new Avengers show, which was
and I don't even want to talk about that show because when they replaced my Avengers with Avengers Assemble, I was like, all right.
And I would have thought, because I was, you know, my guys are always like, I'm a Wolverine guy. I'm a Captain America from a very specific era. I like Ultimates Captain America.
Oh, you do? I'm OG Cap, but I like.
Well,
I understand Ultimates. I understand Ultimates.
616 also, but like when I read Ultimates Cap, I was like, "Oh, this is my Cap." Like I don't know why. I really liked that Cap a lot.
Yeah.
And I read that like I was in college when that book came out, and it was just me reading that book going like, "This is what would happen if we got an Avengers movie." You know?
Yeah.
And the irony with all of that ultimately in the end, you know,
you find
like
true,
especially with Samuel L. Jackson and stuff. But
they took it directly from
no, that's a fantastic book. Mark Millar, fantastic book. But it's just those stories are so hard to adapt. And every time I was always tricked. Oh, Day of the Future Past movie. Here we go. Oh, nope. Bishop. We saw Bishop. Bishop's in the trailer. Yep. Here we go. No. It's the and I love Wolverine, but it's the Adventures of Wolverine, you know, like
featuring other people that might have been X-Men at some point.
Days of Future Past wasn't the Adventures of Wolverine, you know.
Days of Future Past was just cameos of people that you liked that all just got killed in miraculous reasons.
Hey, let's bring back Iceman, you know, like for a hot minute.
Let's bring back Colossus, ripped into
like a split second.
Yeah, let's put in Sunspot. Why not?
Yeah.
Sunspot and
and
Warpath,
Blink,
sure.
you know,
Yeah.
like
Why? And Blink.
yeah.
And Blink, sure. Yeah.
So it's just like, it's, to me, like those, and Age of Apocalypse and whatever, you know, famous event book that they're going to attach, Secret Wars, and you know, and I'm going to hype it up in my head of what it's going to be, and it's not going to be that. You know?
Secret Wars to me, and I'll almost end it here. Secret Wars to me is going to be an amalgamation of what we got with the Battle Planets and all of the corniness of the 80s first one with the Beyonder. If they manage to do that, I'll be cool. But they're not going to rest it on everything relies.
There's not, you know, it's like Secret Wars is where we got symbiote. That's not going to happen.
No,
you know,
you see, that's not what's going to happen. But we don't know because of what they. I don't know what they're going to do. I really have no idea, and I rather try not to think of it because it's like there's too many chess pieces that they can move from. They could do the Battle Planets.
Too many times, my friends, they ask me, "What do you think's going to happen?" And I just rattle off comic book stuff, and none of that ever happens. You know, because they'll be like, I remember like same thing, like what's going to happen in that first Infinity War movie, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, so it's going to be Thanos' quest, and I was right with that at least. But then, like, you know, how that was going to go about was completely different. It wasn't just Thanos standing on his war planet going, you know, and no, there was like, and don't get me wrong, I love that movie. I love Infinity War because I'm a big Thanos guy. The first 3 comic books I ever owned as a kid was Fantastic Four issue number 395, which was first appearance of Wrecker, which is an obscure Thing villain.
Whoa, really? Okay,
bought that book, and then Infinity Gauntlet number 2. That was the second comic book I ever owned. Why? Tons of heroes on the cover. I was like, oh, you look at this deal. I get She-Hulk and you know, Adam Warlock and everybody. Like everyone on the cover was on it. So that's why I bought that book. And I just had this connection with Thanos ever since. And Jim Starlin, getting to meet him. It's so ironic going to a Montreal Comic-Con and no one cared who Jim Starlin was. You know, different time. This was 2000. I want to say 2011, 2010.
Yeah, I hear you.
Whatever year he was, you have to Google it. I remember going up to him, no line, and just like, and it was the only time in my life I was ever starstruck, ever in my life. I've met Bret Hart. I've met other heroes in my life. Never was starstruck. I don't know why. I met him, and I was just I was like, nice to meet you, Mr. Starlin. Thanos is my favorite hero. I mean, villain, you know. And then he's like, well, some people consider him a hero, you know. I was like, okay, I love you.
You got me.
You know, I was such a mess because, like, I got to meet when I met Stan Lee. There's footage of me meeting Stan Lee. I'm just like, hey, Stan, how you doing? But you know what? I wasn't a Stan Lee guy growing up. Like I love X-Men, but Stan made the X-Men, but the stuff of X-Men I like wasn't Stan.
That's all.
Like I like Fantastic Four, but the stuff that I was reading of Fantastic Four in the 90s wasn't Stan. Stan was already working with his cartoons and stuff.
He was doing his other thing.
He was already doing his own thing. We probably wrap it up. Shoot, we went a little long today.
Well, lastly, I have so I'm interviewing the showrunner of X-Men 97 on Saturday. Don't ask.
Oh, nice.
So I want to know if you have any questions that you would like to put.
Just one question. When they first showed the previews, and I actually have images of this. I saved them because I thought they were going to be lost media. When they first showed the preview of the crew, whatever the cast, right?
Yes.
Rogue had one, not Rogue. Storm had one hairstyle.
Yes.
Then they reshowed that as a different hairstyle. I just would love to know the story with that, like because it's the same shot, and then they edited it and they gave her the mohawk. Yeah. And so I was like, I just would like to know what the story. I'm going to send you the images so you can even like reference it to him because it became exactly like lost media. Like all of a sudden it became a Mandela effect. People were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no. There's one website that has it. Yeah. They changed it at some point.
I feel like,
but otherwise, I mean, is that guy Brandon? Is that you're talking to? Who's the showrunner?
Bo.
Mo, okay, I'm not familiar with
that. But I'll get you his name. Lastly, and I'm okay. I know you're going to what to tell me, but so I recently realized that my friend gave me this like years ago. That's the first appearance of Kitty Pryde. Yeah. However, what I didn't know is this is the first appearance of the fucking brown suit of Wolverine.
Oh, when he got it from what's his name there, Talon? No, not Talon.
Maybe I don't know, but he
beat up a guy and he stole his suit, and that's why he has. And it had like a chain, a kind of a. Oh God,
Yeah, it
what
had
is
like
his
that
name?
tiger thing. No, like the
No, I
brown.
know the brown suit. No, but like the first true brown suit that he got. Hold on, Wolverine.
It's like the tiger look. I know what you're talking. It has that little thing.
It has like it looks like teeth almost. It was like around the neck or something. Oh, I didn't
yeah,
know that that was the first
there's no
appearance of it.
mask.
Because
Yeah, so
those ones, because I tried to go out of my way to buy a few key issues back in the day, but then I started buying like the omnibuses and everything, and that's just became my way to read them. But
yeah,
that's
I'm big on omnibuses, but I'm happy to have this. But Protoman, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me, and for this first episode of Talking Fresh Figures. Stacked 2-hour episode, but we had a lot of people in here, and we'll be doing this again when there are more.
Yeah, how many people we got? I don't see any information on that.
At one point, we had we have about like 5 right now. We had a peak of like 14, but it's all just various people from the toy community. We'll get you signed up in here so you can see the comments and whatnot. But everyone, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to, follow either one of us, you can follow my man here at Protoman on IG and everything else. And check out Transformers Slag. That is on when?
On YouTube. I do it daily. I literally do an episode every day, and Saturday night I do a live stream.
Look at that. An episode every day.
I'm a madman. But I do a 10-minute episode every day about whatever's happening in the Transformer worlds. Sometimes if there's nothing happening, we just do a discussion. Hey, let's talk about Bumblebee figures. Let's talk about whatever. And then like tomorrow's going to be a big day. So I'm going to be reporting all of that stuff. And then Saturday I do my live streams, which, man, we got like over 1,000 people on that one. That's
you go.
That's the hype one.
So everyone here, if you want to see more of Protoman, you can check him out at Transformers Slag. That's every day. And on Saturdays, he does a live stream. Me, myself, I am actually Skinny. You can find me on IG. You can find me on here on YouTube, on Wednesdays on Geektastic Cypher, Sundays on Chop Vision, and usually Saturdays on Infinity Equation. But it's going to be Friday this week. But this week, Saturday, we are interviewing, again, the showrunner from X-Men 97, in which I get to ask him
that's really cool
how and why they decided to put Magneto in his X-Men 200 suit, and if this is leading to
I know it's true. There's so many weird design choices.
Is this leading to like the Morlock massacre and oh boy, that's all. So thank you guys.
Grandmaster Magneto and everything.
Yeah, Grandmaster Magneto. So thank you all for watching. We'll be back possibly next week. We'll see. We'll let you know. We'll have graphers and all that stuff. But yeah, thank you guys.
We're in the prototype stage right now.
We are in the prototype stage. And with that, I will just end it with this beautiful outro.